Look at you, you're so tiny.
All right, this way I get a little bit more of a top-down view. I also kind of like the top-down view because it doesn't catch all of this.
I know, I have to giraffe neck it the whole time so people aren't just like, oh my gosh, Jabba the Hutt is doing a podcast. Bring me Solo and the Wookiee.
That's an amazing way to start. I kind of love that. Ooh, dude, check this out.
Dude, that's so cool. It's such a good looking sticker.
It's very smooth. So I don't know about you, Andrew, but I'm actually really excited to record today's episode because we are going to be kind of pushing for a lot of Warhammer content coming up next in the next couple of months. And this is kind of the start of it. And so I'm super excited about this. So today's episode is basically everything you need to know about the Ultramarines. So we all know about them, the good old boys, the Blueberry Marines. But do you know like their history? Like we all know the memes, but like do you know their history, their exploits, strength, weaknesses, and most importantly, their legacy as well? So that's what we're going to be going over today.
Welcome to Talk About Tatooine. I'm Andrew.
I'm Nathan.
And we are twin brothers here to bring you what's new in nerddom and give colorful commentary on our favorite subjects. Welcome to our cantina. Grab a drink and settle in as we set course for realities beyond our own.
In my notes, I made a typo already because instead of writing episode 73 into episode 74, I wrote it as episode 734. And I'm like, wow, that would be super cool to get to that point. But we're not there yet. Welcome, everyone, to episode 74. We are recording this on the 1st of June. So happy June, everybody. And this is going to be released on Monday, June 3rd. Today, we're discussing the Ultramarines, some nerddom news, and we're going to be talking about our lightsaber giveaway.
I will say, though, we were talking in our little brother Discord that our total audience is almost 2 chapters worth of people. So a 40K chapter of Space Marines is about 1,000 Marines, and we're almost at 2,000.
Keep in mind, if you take into consideration the losses due to the most recent Hive fleet, it's like, yeah, it's 2 chapters.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
Well, if you're not counting the dead, then sure.
So, Andrew, our starter question today, I have in my brain, but I don't have written down. If you had to pick a chapter of Space Marines to serve in, which one would you pick?
Wait, I wrote that down. Did you know that I wrote that down?
No. I'm just now seeing it in the notes.
I wrote down, if we got sorted into Space Marine legions, where would you... Dude, this is freaking weird, man.
People at work ask me all the time if twin telepathy is a thing, and I feel like I'm lying to them when I say no.
I tell people yes with 100% confidence. Twin telepathy is absolutely a thing.
100%. I've started saying yes, but sometimes I'm like, it's technically no, but
in the way you're thinking no, but in reality, it's basically a yes.
100%.
To go on a little bit of a tangent, we are not, like Nathan and I are not allowed to be on the same team in things like charades or code names because we can throw out random references and be like, oh, I know exactly what that means.
Pretty much.
And it's just so good. Oh, it's so good. Oh, I wish I had an example because like we've played code names together against our family members and we've thrown out some pretty weird clues.
It's not fun for everyone else who's playing. It's very fun for us, but it is not fun for anybody else.
Very fun for us. Okay. Okay, so if we got sorted into Space Marine legions or chapters, I guess. I'm using the Horus Heresy term. I guess it would be chapters because we're in like the 42nd millennium almost. We're almost in M42.
Yes. We are in M42 at this point. Because I think it's the either beginning or the end of the Indominus Crusade happens in M41999.
Yeah, so we're firmly into M42 then.
So again, if you were a chapter, what would you be?
So you have described our genetic lineage in real life as being hilariously Scandinavian because we're very tall and we're very big. It's the kind of thing where if we were in a group caught in an avalanche, we'd either be the first to die because we'd be cannibalized by the rest of the group.
We would make a good snack.
We'd get immediately spit roasted like Han Solo on in the Ewok camp.
Thank you for adding context to that. I was like, gross. Okay.
What? That only means one thing. Like you spit roast like meat and it spins over a fire and
What? That only means one thing. That couldn't possibly mean anything else.
it only means one thing. Get your mind out of the gutter. Or we would be the last to die or the only to survive because we have so much extra fluff, especially me. I'm definitely larger than you are. You can't tell, but from the neck down, your boy's got some extra poundage going on.
Bring me solo. Oh, 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 oh.
To the point where it drops down to like 40 below, and I'm like, not 40 below, 40 or below, and I'm like, maybe I should put pants on.
You're like, it's really not that cold.
I'm like, I could just wear a sweater and I'm fine.
I think I know where you're going with this, though.
Space Wolves.
Yep, 100%. I like the Space Wolves. I really like the Space Wolves. I believe the first set of the Space Wolf Omnibus, where it covers the story of Ragnar Blackmane, is actually some of the first 40K novels that I ever read. And that's kind of where I fell in love with the series itself and the universe. But I would actually have to hit the Salamanders, and that's actually based on what I read in the Horus Heresy, just because of how their chapter survives, which doesn't fit me as a person at all, but it's more of like their moral code that I think I would like. And they use a lot of flamethrowers and plasma weapons, so super on board with that. So, but I like the Salamanders. I'm also a huge fan of the green and black color scheme. And at first I thought Salamanders was like kind of a dumb name because I thought of like geckos. And then I realized they were referencing dragons, and I was like, oh, that's way cooler.
Yeah, it's definitely not the little tiny lizards that are like, it's it's dragons.
Indeed. All right, so with that, we are going to dive right in. We are going to be giving a crash course, guys. This isn't going to be an in-depth, like we're going to talk about every single fact and historical tidbit about the Ultramarines, because I have to edit all this and I don't want to edit a 3-hour podcast. So we're going to start off with just a little bit of the history here, guys. Yeah. So
it's going to be pretty high level.
Yeah. So keep in mind, the Space Marines were basically created during what was called the first founding. This was actually an M31, so about 10,000 years, actually, I guess 11,000 years before our current setting where they're around. So Space Marines have been around for a long time. Basically, how it started is there was Thunder Warriors. The Imperium of Man was basically trying to retake Terra and the galaxy. This started off as just the Unification Wars, which then transferred into the Great Crusade. But when it's happening just on Terra, it's the Unification Wars. So the Unification Wars is being fought by Thunder Warriors. These guys are really awesome soldiers. They're genetically superior to humans, but they weren't perfect. They weren't what the Emperor needed to conquer the galaxy. So basically, the Emperor still had the genetic makeup of all of his basically his demigod sons, the Primarchs, and he took the genetic makeup of them and turned those into the progenitor legions. And so one of the biggest ones we see is the Ultramarines. So all of these progenitor legions help conquer Terra. They bring an end to the Unification Wars and officially transfer that conflict into what we know as the Great Crusade. Now, during the Great Crusade, the Ultramarines are fighting without their Primarch, Rabute Gilliman, or Robot Girly Man, or however you want to pronounce it. There's so many ways. The
Rowboat Gorilla Man.
The wiki has a very explicit, like, this is how you pronounce his name in it, and it's hilarious.
His name alone has spawned more 40K memes than literally anything else in the Warhammer 40K zeitgeist.
Absolutely. The fun thing about the Ultramarines is that when they go out, they basically discover Gilliman, and Gilliman isn't like struggling on this like planet of his own or anything like that. He's like kind of killing it in his own area.
Yeah, he's totally crushing it.
He's a statesman, he's a conqueror, and this really plays into how the Legion was modeled after him.
So, clarifying question: when the Emperor found Gilliman, was he in charge? He had not only brought peace to the planet that he was he had conquered, I guess, but he also had control of like the entire star system. If I if I'm recalling correctly.
I believe there are some facts in there that are true. What you're referring to is the realm of Ultramar,
The
which
realm
is
of
also
Ultramar.
referred to as the 500 worlds, which in the Horus Heresy was over 500 worlds.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if Rabute conquered that all by himself or if he used his legion to conquer some of that. I'm assuming it's the latter, because that's a lot to do with just basically the forces of humans. I believe, now correct us in the comments, I would love to hear if this is correct or not, but I just haven't gotten into that part because we don't want to spend too much on the pre-heresy Ultramarines. But once the Ultramarines find Guilliman, I believe then they go out and they're continuing their conquest during the Great Crusade, and then that realm then becomes the 500 worlds. That is my understanding.
We'll have to do an episode on the Ultramarines as Legion in and before the Horus Heresy, because that story is fascinating. There's some really good books.
Really, really good.
Oh my gosh. Some really tragic books too.
Yeah, don't get attached to anybody is basically the main clue there. One thing you guys have probably seen across Warhammer as a universe as well is the use of High Gothic. So High Gothic is essentially the language or the dialect of English that they use in the universe. So this is very like Latin-esque, and this fits really, really well with the Ultramarines because the Ultramarines are modeled after the ancient Romans. This is like very clear in their livery, their style, their structure. It goes very, very well with basically everything they use to name them and function as a legion and chapter. Minus the fact that like blue wasn't really a Roman color, they're pretty much right on the money. They're basically space Romans.
Yes, exactly. So if the Roman Empire already lives rent-free in your head, now so will the Ultramarines.
So fun fact for you, Andrew, I don't know if you've seen this, but I have started working on a lore codex for our podcast. For additional projects and YouTube videos that do kind of do these deep dives. And I'm actually making a video right now that is based on the setting of 40K, because I had a coworker actually ask me, he's like, hey, tell me what 40K is about. And I didn't have a good, concise answer for him. And so I'm actually going to be making a video on like, hey, what is the universe of the 40K setting? And I actually will dive into a little bit more of how we use High Gothic and its naming conventions. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so super excited about that. So thank you to all of our patrons that make that possible. Support us on Patreon. Anyways, so keep in mind, in this universe, the Ultramarines basically, like we call them the poster childs, but they really are. We kind of make fun of them because they're literally on the front of everything like Games Workshop does as far as marketing. But in universe, they hold that same position, but in a much higher regard. So the Ultramarines as a chapter are considered to symbolize everything that a space marine should be. They adhere to the Codex Astartes, which is kind of their rule book, closer than any other chapter. They're very strict about this, and you actually find some conflict about this in the first three books of the Ultramarines Omnibus by Graham McNeil. Big shout out to Graham McNeil. He's got a lot of really good stories on the Ultramarines.
Oh, those books are so good.
They're so good. With all that, they adhere the best. They hold up Imperial values as much as possible, which Imperial values makes them sound very holier than thou art. They're still Imperials. They still kill people. They still do terrible things in the name of the Emperor. So keep that in mind. There are no good guys in 40K, but
there are no good guys in 40K.
But it's said in the Warhammer universe that when the people, the actual humans of the Imperium think of Space Marines, the blueberries themselves are usually what come to mind. Unless there's worlds that are specific homes to different chapters, most worlds don't actually have chapters on them because there's thousands of chapters, but millions of worlds. So you can see how that is very quickly outnumbered. But most people think of the Space Marines as these adherents. They think of them in their consideration to their adherence to the Codex Astartes. They think of them and how they protect the borders of the Imperium, and they're really they hold that spot in the hearts of minds of mankind.
On the IRL side of things, in real life, the Ultramarines have been the very literal poster boys for both the 9th and 10th edition box sets. So they are very literally the poster boys. They were the first chapter / legion to have one of their Primarchs resurrected or return. Most of the Primarchs are not dead, but it makes the most sense that the Ultramarines were the first to get their Primarch back. That's Rabute Gilliman. He was like caught in stasis, I think, and there was some like help from an Eldar, and there's some rumors about that that we're not going to go into. They're not super safe for work. Like he was he was the first Primarch to come back, and then the Lion, so the Dark Angels Primarch, was the second to come back. So there's 2 Loyalist Primarchs that you can physically field on a tabletop, and there's 3 Chaos Primarchs.
Mortarion, Magnus, and the angry one, Angron.
The angry one, duh. The nails!
Soon to be 4 once Fulgrim comes out.
Yeah, Fulgrim, I can't believe Fulgrim is not out yet.
They nasty.
The Emperor's Children really need some love, because they'll give it right back in a weird sadomasochistic sort of way, because they freaks.
They all freaky, absolutely.
They're freaks. Anyway, let's get back to the Ultramarines. Nathan, you say, so a little bit of a clarifying question. There's only a certain number of actual listed successor chapters for the Ultramarines, but in the actual world of 40K, there's thousands. We just don't know what their names are, correct? They just don't name them.
So when you're looking at the wiki, there are like 53 successor chapters. 52 if you consider the Firehawks, but they are suspected, and that is noted in their wiki. So there's quite a bit. I'm sure there's more.
Right. What I'm saying is that this list is not exhaustive.
Correct. Yes.
Because when the chapters were founded, basically they took the legions and they divided it by 1,000 Marines. The Ultramarines had the biggest legion by far, to the point where during the Horus Heresy, Horus Lupercal had to literally split the universe in half so that the Ultramarines could not intervene at the Battle of Terra, because if they did, it would have been a no contest for the Loyalists, because their numbers were so massive.
The Ultramarines did so well in the Horus Heresy, like the word bearers had to basically come in and surprise attack the Ultramarines. They had to basically blight one of their entire planets with a chaos plague. I guess not really a chaos plague, but basically they
destroyed their sun.
They
right?
destroyed the sun, essentially. They turned the sun toxic to the world.
Yeah.
And this is Calth.
And then everyone just went underground and they're like, whatever.
Yes. There's even a successor chapter. Where is it?
It's like the Sons of Calth or something.
I think so. No, there's not a Sons of Calth. I thought there was, but there's not. No, there's a book about Calth. That's what I'm thinking of. Not a successor chapter. Anyways, there's quite a bit that goes on with the Ultramarines. They are super hard to kill. They're scrappy. They're tactical. We see a lot of that in the Horus Heresy and going into the actual 41st millennium. So some of the cool things they do is, especially during those, when we're looking at those books written by Graham McNeil, this is where you get a really like dialed in, focused view of the Ultramarines, and specifically following Uriel Ventress. So he has like 8 books written about him because he's just a badass who does everything. And one of my favorite books that actually is going to tie into what we talk about, like what is currently going on, is Warriors of Ultramar. So Warriors of Ultramar is one of the first books I ever read about Space Marines, specifically the Ultramarines fighting Tyranids. Now, essentially, this is a Tyranid splinter fleet. This is like the smallest of the small amount of Tyranids that could possibly be seen and fought against, because it's basically a scouting fleet. It's a tendril that has broken off from the main group that is exploring and looking for other planets. And these Ultramarines are defending Ultramar, and they are struggling to survive. They lose a lot of, like, again, everybody, like, so many people die, but they kill so many Tyranids. And this is kind of their first brush, not with the Imperium as a whole, but like kind of the Ultramarines' first brush with the Tyranids. And this is like a good kind of like foreshadowing with what's to come, because the main setting right now is Ultramarines versus Tyranids. That is currently what is going on. It's basically what has consumed the entire attention of the Imperium. The Imperium is basically surrounded currently on all sides by a Tyranid threat, and the Ultramarines are doing their best along with everybody else to fight off all of these bugs.
Yeah.
It's quite a dire threat. So that's probably one of my favorite ones. Also, you get to see I think one of the coolest books we see is Dead Sky Black Sun, where Uriel Ventress is basically sent on a penance quest because of what happens in the book before. I won't go into details because I don't want to spoil too much of it. It's a really good read.
It's a pretty old book, though. For reasons we won't go into a lot of detail, your Captain Ventress, son of a...
Think Asajj.
Ventress, I promise I know how to read.
He doesn't.
It seems like I don't, but I promise I do know how to read. So he's actually sent into the Eye of Terror and ends up on a Iron Warriors foundry planet, and is basically like, they tell him, complete your quest or die, we don't care. Again, there are no good guys in 40k.
Yeah, and that's the chapter master that sends him out too. So Marnius Calgar himself is like, hey, thanks for, saving everybody, but because you didn't adhere to the rules exactly how we wanted, I have to send you on a death quest. Congrats. You're a hero. Go die now.
Your service is no longer needed. Honest to goodness, when the game Space Marine came out, it is like, you obviously play as a Blueberry, you play as an Ultramarine, and I was so surprised that you didn't play as Ventress.
That is a pretty big surprise. Andrew, can you tell us a little bit more about what happens, or what is currently happening in the game of Space Marine? So, especially since we're going to be leading up to this when Space Marine 2 comes out.
Yeah, so the original Space Marine game came out in like 2014. So it's not new news. It's either just about to turn 10 years old or is actually a decade old at this point. So you play as Captain Titus, a man who looks very much like Uriel Ventress, but is not the same person. All Space Marines look the same. You and a small squad of Ultramarines are tasked to go to a forge world that is producing Titans, and you're tasked to rid it of an orc infestation. So when you go down to the planet, you find that there's this like mysterious experimental power source that an Inquisitor is like screwing around with. It's obviously powered by the warp, and you like totally touch it. And this thing is like, I get big Demon Core vibes from this thing, and like your character just like grabs onto it and he's like, oh, that's weird, I'm fine. And so both of your teammates just like look at you and are like, hey man, that's real sus what you just did there. And you're like, but it's fine, we have to finish the mission. So anyway, you're carrying this power source through, and you plug it into this thing called the Psychic Scourge, and it's supposed to like kill all the orcs, because orcs have this like nascent psychic ability. Basically, they have the ability to, whatever they believe in happens. So if they believe that the thing they're holding is a gun, it becomes a gun.
Interesting note about the orcs is, first of all, we will be doing a separate video, like a deep dive into orc lore, which I'm super excited about. Second of all, the orcs don't know they possess this ability. This is unknown to them, which is kind of a mind F, but that's all right.
Yeah, they're like super smart and super dumb all at the same time. They're like, wow, like, you know how when you like play with a stick and you're like, this stick is the best stick, it looks like a gun. The orcs are like, oh my gosh, it actually shoots bullets. I mean, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but I'm sure if they believed it did, it would. I'm sure, but I digress. So you're pounding your way through these orcs. You ended up firing this thing called the Psychic Scourge, and it does nothing. It basically knocks all the orcs on their butts, and then they get right back up and they're like, what the heck was that? And the Space Marines are like, what the heck was that? And then the Inquisitor is like,
it was super ineffective.
It was super ineffective. And then the Inquisitor was like, oh, that was weird. Also, I'm possessed by chaos. And then his eyes shine, and then a portal opens from the warp, and Chaos Marines and demons start coming out. They slaughter a bunch of the orcs. This massive chaos sorcerer called Nemeroth, he's a chaos sorcerer in Terminator armor,
Sick.
He like does this, like he comes out and he like just yeets the war boss off of a ledge real quick, so he can monologue at you, and he like uses the warp on you, but you're like somehow immune. Your character is not a psyker, by the way. And even the chaos dude is like, hey bro, that's kind of sus that like this isn't working on you. What's going on? And so Captain Titus, the character you play as, is like, it doesn't matter, you're a traitor. And then the war boss like comes out of nowhere again and, pushes him and the Nemeroth back off the cliff. And you're like, oh gosh, that was crazy. And then again, both your teammates look at you and they're like, no, bro, that seriously is really, really sus that you're invulnerable to the warp. And Captain Titus again is like, it doesn't matter, we have a mission. We have to complete it. So you go and you start fighting your way through now Chaos Demons, Chaos Space Marines, and Orcs back through the city. So at this point, you have the power source again. You rip it out of the Psychic Scourge. And at this point in the campaign, we are beelining it for the Titan Invictus, which is one of the Titans on the manufacturing line of this Forge world. And we're like, we're going to fire this big ass gun. We're going to put a big ass power cell in it. And we're going to take down the warp portal that is now open in the city. It's like slowly opening. It's opening at a rate which is very convenient to the plot of the story. You're giving me a weird look. Is this hand shape making you uncomfortable?
No, it actually wasn't the hand shape. It was, I don't know what happens at the end of the game because I don't know if I ever finished it.
My brother.
And so I'm like, I wonder what's going to happen. Also, I'm like,
special players, brother.
Maybe a Chaos Titan's going to come out. That'd be so
special
cool.
Teams. Special players.
Please stop talking like a brain-rotted Gen Z.
I just saw a meme where it was a guy who was like, when your friend has succumbed to the brain rot, and he's just sitting there on the ground kind of spasming, going, skibbity, skibbity. And his friend just shakes his head, takes out a lightsaber, and just, kills him. And it's like, honestly, yeah, you got to put him out of his misery.
Yeah, gotta put him down.
You gots to take him out. Man, my hair's getting really long. Anyway, so that's how far we are. Well, I should say, when you're getting really close to the Titan, you like round a corner, and then the war boss is like, huh, and then you kill him. That's where I am in our live stream. So I won't go any farther than that, especially since you don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to spoil it for you. I know what's going to happen because I'm not a plebe. I actually finished the game. So this is just a replay for me. Shame. I'm
working on it. That's why you're streaming it, is so I can get caught up for Space Marine 2.
Indeed. All of this is going to be on our YouTube channel. I'm working on putting up the replays in the background right now. For one of my streams, I forgot to turn my camera off for like a half hour afterwards. So you can actually hear me breathing super heavy in the background on my bike, just like, oh gosh. I unpublished it. It's not up on Twitch anymore.
That's good.
I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't press the end button.
Let me guess, you rated out but didn't end the stream.
I rated out, but I didn't end the stream. I remember clicking the button, and then Streamlabs was like, nah, brah. I'm just going to keep it going. Because sometimes I have to click it twice for whatever reason.
Well, that's fun.
Because I was like super motivated. I'm like, I'm going to go exercise. And then I just wasn't paying attention enough. Anyway, so that's where we're at, where I think we're moving into either the end of part 4 of the game or into part 5. I want to say there's 5 or 6 parts. So we're really getting close to the end of the game. Probably one more stream and we'll finish it. So the next time you see me go live on Space Marine, tune in. That should be the finale. Sweet. It's going to be a good time.
I'm very excited overall. First of all, for you to finish that, I think that's going to be super cool. And then I am super far behind on all of the books for the current plot of Warhammer. So the Ultramarines get to go on all of these like cool adventures. They basically, like, when Rabute Gilliman comes back, he again has this weird relationship with the Eldar. Totally sus, by the way.
Super sus.
Totally not heresy at all. They get to go on what is essentially the Indomitus Crusade. They have a huge conflict with all sorts of factions, especially the Necrons. We get to see them get into quite a bit of a scuffle. Then in their current engagement, they're fighting the Tyranids. I have not read about any of that. I basically know all of this is going on because of what's happening in the tabletop. And I'm super excited to go through and read all of these books and then share all that with you guys so we can get you guys caught up on the entire lore. But just know that there's a lot happening in the Warhammer universe that centers around Space Marines, usually centers around the Ultramarines. They're kind of the title character, because it was nice in the Horus Heresy where you could have 18 main characters, or I guess 17, R.A.P. Ferrus Manus. But
oh, no.
like, that's really hard for people to follow.
He shows up in some flashbacks.
Yeah, some really weird kind of like psychedelic flashbacks. Anyways, yeah. Torture-induced hallucination. Anyways, so...
Oh, yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, it was really weird. The 40K universe is mostly focusing around the Ultramarines, and I think that's really exciting, so we'll go over more of that in detail. I think overall, I think it's really important for our channel, or everyone who's listening to this, to know that we are going to be taking a big focus onto Warhammer 40K and everything that's going on in the universe, really in preparation for Space Marine 2 coming out. Andrew, do you have anything to add before we go into news from the HoloNet?
I think that's pretty much it. We're going to be going into a lot deeper lore. Like, we really just barely skated off the surface of like the Ultramarines as a chapter. We want to go into their initial founding. There's a lot of speculation about why there's such a large legion in the Horus Heresy, and conversations about the missing legions. We could go into a ton of detail about just Rabute Gilliman, the Primarchs. We could talk about Chapter Master, what's his face,
Marneus Calgar.
Thank you. I'm like, what is his name? So there's tons of stuff we can do. We're probably going to be talking a lot of Ultramarines leading up to the release of Space Marine, which is going to be September 9th. That's really not that many podcasts from now.
No, we're only going to get in a couple of episodes. So we're going to be really kind of like pushing for that. You're going to see us stream a lot of that over on Twitch once that comes out. We're going to be doing a big push for all of that.
For sure.
It's going to be a great time.
We might even have to do an episode on just the Emperor, if I'm being honest.
Could we even do that in one episode?
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
Probably not with the length of episodes that we do.
No, probably not. So with that, Andrew, do you want to hop into the news from the HoloNet?
Let's do it.
Perfect.
I'm so excited about this first piece of news. So this first one, this was going to be a huge administrative hurdle for us. Like, we really didn't know how we were going to figure this out. But Space Marine 2 has recently announced that it's going to have full crossplay abilities. So this was going to be a huge hindrance to us, because we were basically, like a week ago, I had Googled, does this game have crossplay? And the answer was no. So I immediately messaged my little group, my squad, you could say, and I said, hey, this game is not going to have crossplay. Do we want to just agree on what system we're all going to buy it for? Because we typically play on Xbox and PC. Like, we switch between the two all the time. So if some of us bought it on PC and some of us bought it on Xbox, that's a problem. However, now, as of like 2 days ago, they announced that it will have full cross-play abilities, which honestly, this should be the standard. This should be the standard moving forward. If you release a game on multiple consoles and PC, they should be able to play with each other.
Yes, it is. I would argue it should be. You should even be able to play across different, like, I guess different companies. Like, technically, like, PCs aren't specifically owned by Microsoft, but it's like there's so much Microsoft integration that it's basically just kind of a given. But you should be able to play between Xbox, PlayStation Network, PC, which is basically anything that can run Steam. And I kind of hope, I know this is going to sound terrible. I know this is going to sound for me, but like, we really push for inclusion here. And I think like it should be available on Steam for Apple as well. There are a small amount of people who do game on Macs. I have my own feelings about that, even though I have a lot of Apple products myself, but I think it should be open to everyone. It irks me when they deliberately leave certain communities out, because I'm like, first of all, you could make money off those communities. And second of all, everyone should be included. Like, I hate it when people like get excluded just because they're like, oh, well, I decided to buy this piece of machinery for X reason, but now I have these huge downsides because I can't play these games or do this function. And it's like, wow, this should be available for everybody. But that's just kind of our ethos as a podcast, is we really push for everyone to be included. So,
and there certainly are technical challenges when designing for different operating systems. We understand that it's not just a magical button that you can click to say, okay, now run on Apple iOS. But it seems like that the entire gaming developing community has just said, oh, well, Apple's just a lost cause. It's not even worth investing into. And that kind of feels bad because we do have friends who are like, well, I only have an Apple computer because that's what I bought. I'm not going to spend another $2,000 on a gaming PC just to play Steam games. Some people are like that.
Some people
I'm
do
not.
That. Yeah, I can't do that. So,
yeah,
our next,
go ahead.
Our next piece of news. Keep in mind, guys, we're kind of using this episode as kind of a little bit of a transition point. The things like the MCU and DCU, we're going to be talking about a little bit less, other than like talking about them specifically in our news portion. But the main subject matter of our podcast is going to be basically Star Wars and Warhammer moving forward. But we still want to keep you guys posted on other things. So I thought this was really interesting because I was kind of looking into other movies that were coming out. The MCU is only slated to have one more movie released this year, which is Deadpool and Wolverine. So we are going to get over a 6-month break from the MCU. And I cannot tell you how much I feel like that is necessary.
Oh my gosh, it feels good.
I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys just need to breathe. So I'm super excited about that.
I was exhausted with Marvel stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, there's so much stuff to keep up with. And like the Disney Plus shows have been really, really subpar. They've been bad. Other than X-Men 97, but it was a total outlier too.
Which was a gem. Which, let me interrupt you for a second, by the way. Y'all need to listen to our episode on X-Men 97 because that was a really fun episode to do. It's a really fun show. And none of you guys have watched it yet, so watch it, dang it.
Or listen to it. It doesn't matter. Just engage. Please.
Pretty please.
I beg of you, use my power.
Anyways. Yeah, so X-Men 97 was a big outlier there, but yeah, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as far as all the shows, kind of subpar. We both really liked Loki, but not everyone had that same reaction to that show, and we're only 2 people out of millions, so that's...
And Secret Invasion was trash.
I liked Secret Invasion, but keep in mind, those of you who consume the podcast should know that I'm easily pleased with a lot of things. So, that's my 2 cents on sometimes my palate can be very well refined, and other times I'm like, stuff blew up, it's good.
That's totally okay. There's definitely like an elitist sensibility of like, oh, this is a superhero movie and it's not like, it doesn't really tell that good of a story. It's like, dude, just let people enjoy what they want to enjoy. There's a reason why this genre is so popular, is because it's just a lot of fun. Like, superhero stories are they're like the human experience turned up to 11 sometimes, and that's really great. Like, not every movie has to be like Oscar bait, super downer about, somebody who's, got this horrible disease or something, and they're like, oh, my teeth are made out of glass. And it's like, well, let's talk about how horrible my life is. And you cry the whole movie. It's like, those movies are good, but it's like, they're not something I want to rewatch ever because they're downers.
Hit us with that next piece.
Let's see. This is coming out Monday, which is June 6th. So by the time you are listening to this episode, The Acolyte is 1 day away. I am so excited. It's going to be a 2-episode premiere, and it's going to be the first foray into the High Republic.
Very excited about this.
That is live action. Technically, the Young Jedi Adventures is in the High Republic. That doesn't count.
And all of us together said, we don't care.
It's like, that's for children.
And now we are adults. We're not children anymore.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not going to watch the Young Jedi Adventures because Bluey is better. Okay? Let's just be honest. If I'm going to spend my time...
Andrew, we do not have time for you to go down that. That's a whole other episode. There's way too much on that. We got to pass over that. I'm gonna cut you off on that one.
Go.
One interesting thing is Andrew, I don't know if you realize this, but when we started our first couple episodes, we had tech news in the news from the HoloNet as well, because we do like our entire podcast is based around technology. We can't do any of this without technology. And so I just kind of wanted to update you guys on kind of the current state of affairs on everything. This is a news piece kind of taken from several different articles, but you guys have probably seen we're getting a huge surge of AI images and AI generated content. I'm just going to get up on my soapbox for just a second and say, personally, I don't see the hype in people using AI for things like generating video content or picture content. I think it's bad. It's uncanny, and it really devalues people who actually put time and effort into creating content, and especially art as well. But keep in mind, because we are content creators ourselves, this is my very biased opinion. I think it can have a lot of really good uses in other areas. I know there's people who are using AI to come up with more like antibiotic resistant treatments and things like that. Because if you don't know, we're actually running into this problem that's getting closer and closer of antibiotic resistant bacteria, because if you kill 99% of everything every single time, you get 1% that is stronger than everything else, and then you compound that over years and years and years, and you start getting these super bacteria. Anyways, we're not a medical podcast, so we won't dive into that, but AI is being used to like curb problems like that, and I think that's very good. However, when it comes to like the arts and media and things like that, I'm like, man, I wish AI would just like kind of keep its fingers out of this. Like, I know a lot of people are really enjoying using chatbots and things like that, but then you get these like weird pieces of news where they're like, hey, look at that, we let this chatbot have uninhibited access to the internet and it became a Nazi. I'm like, this, yeah, of course it did. Like, so I'm just kind of like, I don't know about you, but I'm kind of sick of hearing about all the AI stuff. It just kind of seems like a lot of people were like, hey, we're gonna kind of get to a kind of a Black Mirror state, or, you know, a little bit of dystopian future if we kind of go down this road. And a few people were like, yeah, bet, and they just took the line of AI and just like went with it. And the rest of us were like, dude, we saw that, like, all of these bad things coming. Why are you still doing this? But they're just rich people who don't care for anything else. So
yeah, I for one welcome our AI overlords, and I would never say anything negative against them. On a totally unrelated note, I very much would like to smash my phone with a hammer and go live out in the woods.
That does sound very nice. Very Ron Swanson-esque.
Just me, my dog, and my chickens.
One final update we've got for you guys is just a huge thank you from us here at the podcast. Like, we want to kind of give you some news about us that like is going on. Because of your guys' support, we've been able to make some small but hopefully really meaningful upgrades to our setups as far as podcasting, Twitch streaming, hopefully getting on some other platforms as well for live streaming. And we're hopefully going to be amping up our stream game here really soon, especially for me. I feel like I've been trying to catch up with you because you have better equipment than I do. And I recently just got some new equipment that will hopefully help me stream some more stuff, and especially some stuff that our patrons want to see. I know there's been specific game requests that you guys want us to see and review, and those are becoming more of a reality. So big thanks to all of our patrons and supporters, especially our top patrons, Mike, Isaac, and David, and Combrew. You guys are the reason we do this. And honestly, you guys have been a delight to work with. All of our patrons do get access to a private Discord server, and that is not just a server where we dink around, which we do, but the patrons of that server get the highest amount of input on what happens in the show. And that goes in so much. Like, we could not do this without you guys. You guys are honestly the ones that help us like fine tune our direction. You guys give us really good feedback, so we really appreciate that. Keep in mind, guys, for just $5 a month, you can join that Patreon and you can get access to the private Discord server for life, by the way. You only have
We'll
to be a
never
patron
kick
for a
you
month.
out.
Yeah, we're never going to kick you out unless you're a dick. Then we'll kick you out. But really, all of that money goes straight back into the podcast here, guys. It also gives you access to game servers. So, for example, we have a Minecraft server, and we're building this giant realm that you guys can build in. And it's an accelerated Minecraft server. So we give you things to basically make your life a little bit easier. So you can start building and exploring and doing all this stuff as quickly as possible. We're also working on getting some items out on our Etsy store. Our patrons get discount codes for those items as well. So if you want to see different, if you want like a cool, like brand new Dune sticker or something like that, you get a discount code for that. That is already
Can
on
you just
our
read
shop.
what that says for us real quick?
So guys, this is a play on Don't Tread on Me. This is Don't Tread Rhythmically. And it is Shai Hulud, which is the sandworm. So very, very
Bless the
excited
maker,
about
it
this.
is water.
I'm also really excited about how like top quality these stickers came out. Like this is such a high quality vinyl. You guys have seen I have my holographic Helldiver sticker on one side, and now I've got
Stanley
on my Stanley, and then I have my Dune sticker here, guys. The more we get support like that, the more like customization options we can have for those as well. And basically, like another benefit of that as well is because you guys are supporting us in so many ways, we can do cool things like giveaways. We have literally so many tickets in our giveaway raffle right now for the lightsabers. Like I've got an entire jar here that has like just a bunch of crumpled up tickets, not crumpled, folded delicately.
They're folded.
But we've got so
Just
much more
folded in,
time for
David.
people to enter, guys. It's basically a raffle system. If you guys support us on Patreon, sub on Twitch, or if you buy something from the Etsy shop, you guys can get entered to win a lightsaber. And we just have so much cool stuff going on here, guys. So we really do encourage everyone to join the Patreon. That helps us out so much and just helps the channel continue to grow. Anything else you'd like to add, Andrew?
Nope, you're killing it.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Every single one of you is amazing, handsome, beautiful, and probably very intelligent as well. Only the smartest listeners listen to us here at Talk About Tatooine. Guys, we've got a lot of Warhammer stuff coming your way, so make sure you guys leave us your theories in the comments for anything that's happening with the current world. If you guys are a fan of Warhammer on tabletop, we'd love to see the pictures of the models that you guys are building. You guys can send us those on Twitter or Instagram. We'd love to highlight them on our stories as well. If you guys have questions that you guys want featured on air, shoot us an email at talkabouttatooine@gmail.com. And if you're already a patron, you guys can also ask us those questions as well. We do feature patron commentary at a priority level. So again, please like and subscribe so this video can be pushed out to others' feeds, because the algorithm requires likes, it requires view time, things like that, but it really does help us. So leave us a review for the podcast. If you guys are listening to this on Apple or Spotify, that actually helps this get pushed out as well. Like and comment on the video if you guys are watching this on YouTube. And really, guys, just share it with a friend. If you're not a patron, really all we're asking is that you share these videos around and that you just interact. That interaction means the world to us, and it really does help us quite a bit. Also, if you buy something on Etsy, leave the shopper review as well, because that actually pushes our items literally higher up the list so people see it quicker. So super helpful. So all that being said here, guys, the Emperor protects. We'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure you guys catch us live, because we're going to be streaming quite a bit in the next couple of days as well. See you guys.